Right, good morning then, guys. So we always have a few cars that go galactic for whatever reason. There's normally a reason behind it. And then we always have a few cars that perhaps fall a little short and you think, can't work that one out, that's really strange. Which is why we're more than prepared to give cars a second chance in a sale, because sometimes you just can't get all your ducks lined up. It just doesn't happen. You can't do it. You've got 500 vehicles going through. You can't expect to line them all up every time. One that did line up really well was the Shogun, which it was always going to do really well, I felt. I'm not just saying that now because it did, but it was always going to do really well because it's stunning and it's lovely, and they were traditionally bought to work and they were worked hard, and then they sort of went down the food chain. So they were probably, you know, they were the top of the chain on the farm at one point, or any ownership, and they were looked after and cared for and all the rest of it. Then they got to an age where they just became a general hack run around. They were abused, and then they went even lower, and the four-wheel drive lads got hold of them and they started doing off-roading and conversions and all the rest. So by the time they'd finished the process, they were knackered, basically. They were knackered. And then you get one in like this that you know is going to go beyond expectations. And this period of manufacture was, I think, really probably prime time. Really, you know, they were still very basic, but at the same time they had a level of comfort. So you still had all your central locking electric windows, power steering, see-through glass, bump-up tyres, all that type of stuff. But they drove really well, and this period drives just as well. That car just drives just as well as my brand new Defender, but has got a fraction of the things on it that are potentially going to give you grief. So I love the Defender, great. Bit of an ambassador for Land Rover, got half a dozen of them, love them. But they are the newer, obviously, ones are just loaded with gadgets, half of which I still haven't worked out what they do a year into the ownership. And yeah, they go wrong. Everything on here is mechanical. You can fix it. You can see with your eyes what's gone wrong. She's not loaded with black boxes. Yeah, and it does the same job. So that will sit on the motorway at 70 mile an hour, comfortable all day, every day, and not give you any grief. So would I go around the world in a brand new Mitsubishi, or would I go around the world in this area of production? This time, every time. So, and as I said earlier, because they were worked hard and they were worked to death, when the nice ones come along, they do really well. And ironically, the day this one arrived, a friend of mine pulled up and only lives locally, and he's just bought one. A very, very, very similar. One owner, low mileage, immaculate, in bright red. He bought it to use really as like a works truck. And he came round, he said, Dave, I need a bit of advice. He said, it's so nice, and it is nice, it's on par with that. And he said, and I'm using it to chuck my tools in and go out to jobs and bits and pieces. Am I doing the right thing? And I said, I think you probably are. You know, I wouldn't encourage you to waste it. And he is, you know, he's the sort of guy who will look after it. I said, and he told me what he'd given for it, which was very sensible money. And I said, what are you going to go out and buy for that sort of money to do that job as well and as reliable as that? I said, what can you replace it with? And he was like, yeah, I suppose you've got a point. I said, that vehicle, you look after it like as you do, and he does look after his stuff, his tractors, his machinery, and all the rest of it. He is on it. I said, that'll last you out. You know, that'll be the last work bus you have to buy. And he sort of stood there for a minute. He went, oh yeah, I suppose you're probably right, because he's no spring chicken at the lad, like, you know. And if there's not 20 years left in that Shogun, I'll eat my hat, and there is. And he went away and he said, you know what, I think I'll keep it. I said, just keep it, enjoy it, and carefully use it. He might think a bit different now because, you know, he might be sat on quite an expensive truck maybe. So I'm not surprised if I get a phone call to say, do you know what, hang on a minute, if it's worth that much money. But it's funny as well, isn't it? It was always going to make good money. It did make good money. It did make more than we all expected, let's be honest. Could you repeat that again next sale with a similar car? Sometimes it's difficult to do that. You know, you just so happened to hit the right group of buyers on the right day. Everything was lined up. Consequently, it made what it made. Trying to do that again and again and again is real difficult. So, yeah, it's just the way it rolls, isn't it? It's the way it rolls. But as I say, when I'm on the roster doing it myself, you know, the guy who's got the last laugh really is the guy who's got it in this, the guy who's won it, you know. And then the other guys that fell out earlier on and stopped bidding, you know, they'll be thinking, should have maybe gone a bit more, should have maybe gone a bit more. And if you've got 3 or 4 people really strong on an item, you know, I don't think you want to be beating yourself up at the end as far as a suggestion of sort of overpaying, because you've got one guy behind you who's potentially going to bid within 200 or 300 quid. So he obviously valued it within 200 or 300 quid. You've got another guy behind him. So that's 300, 400, 500 quid. So you can't be far out, can you? Because you've got a guy there that's just behind you. Then you've got another guy that's just behind him. Then another guy who's just behind them. So can't be far out. I think that's where the auction system works, is because, and that's why people like to use it to dispose of assets. That's why companies, you know, as far as dissolving companies and the legal side of things, the solicitors and bits and pieces, you put it in a sale, you let it find its level. It's a public sale, and there's a massive argument to say that everything will find its level, won't it? It might take a couple of times, which is why I say we'll put it in again, but they will all find their level, won't they? You know, so if you offer it to thousands of people and it levels out at 3,000 quid, there's a massive argument to say it's worth 3,000 quid, because, you know, you've let loads of people say, what do you want to give for this car? You know, and yeah, they find their level. The other one that went on and on and on, a bit like me, is the Marina pickup that's behind you, which again, I don't think you needed to be Mystic Meg to work out that it was always going to go really well, but same as a Shogun, there was 3 or 4 people really strong on it that fancied it, wanted it, and it did go on, and that's that one. I know it's a bit tricky, but it's behind you there. We maybe ought to have a quick look on that one while we're here, and that's the Marina. For similar reasons to the Shogun, as far as simplicity of use, but even more so than the Shogun, when's the last time you saw a Marina pickup in this condition? Again, they were scrapped 30 years ago. You know, there is none. You know, you're doing really well to find a preserved Marina car, but to find a Marina pickup is probably even rarer than a van, because if there's one vehicle out there that gets abused later in its life, it's a pickup. You know, they just do, because, you know, you're chucking stuff in and you're trying to lift stuff up and you damage all the side and you put too much weight in it and you abuse it. So if there's one vehicle out there, if there's one bracket of vehicle that gets abused beyond all others, it must be a pickup truck. And then when you find one like this, I mean, it's just amazing, really, absolutely amazing. And for a Marina, I mean, again, I'm a big fan of Ambassadors, Princesses, Allegros, Marinas. I love them because I can relate to them, and they're so bad they're good. And it's just a period of production, again, that was just built to last 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years if you were lucky, and then you threw it away. They really were. You're on about disposable cars nowadays, on about, oh, you know, you're going to buy a car in the future, it's going to have a 10-year lifespan, throw it away, it's going to become a white goods type purchase. To be honest, there's a lot to be said that these 70s were a white goods type approach. You know, they got to 10, 11, 12 years old, and they were rotten as a pear. You know, they went. Possibly with the more modern vehicles, you'll make a choice, a financial choice, to dispose of it, recycle it after 10 years. With this period of production, the choice was made for you, because basically they rotted away. So you didn't really have the option of keeping it going because it was absolutely shot. So this should not be here. It should not have survived. It is as rare as hen's teeth, a little car. So consequently, it was always going to do really well. And it has. And good luck to the guy who's owned it. He had one, I think, back in the day, wanted to revisit it for all the right reasons, I'm sure. Can't take it with you, can you? Can't take the money with you, so why not? Why not? And let's face it, that man or lady who's bought this, when he gets in, or she gets in there, she's going to be, or he, transported back to what is it on this one? An N, so 74, 75. They're going to be transported back to 1975, aren't they? And that nostalgia thing is so powerful, and it will just bring back so many, I'm sure, pleasant, lovely memories of past, you know, family and friends and times and occasions and things. Yeah, can you put a price on that? Don't know really, to be fair, don't know. Anyhow, I'm going to press on and do a bit of work for a change, so I'll catch you guys later on the next video.